Hi, my name is Ryan Jones, and welcome to Backseat Baseball. This is a podcast I plan on doing twice a week, and during the off season once a week. A little about me: I played baseball up to the high school level until grades and injuries got in the way. It's called Backseat Baseball because, like a backseat driver, really don't have a right to say anything, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Um, so my topics today are the All-Star Game, snubs, how'd the fans do, who should be the starting pitchers for the game. Home Run Derby roster was officially revealed last night. Buy or sell, which team should buy or sell during the trade deadline, and also how do you feel about a certain topic. So those are the talking points I have for today. To start off with the All-Star Game, how'd the fans do? I think the fans did really well. This is one of the happiest I've ever been with a roster. I can read off the roster for you now. In the American League, the starting positions: catcher Salvador Perez for Kansas City, first base Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in Toronto, Marcus Semien at second base for Toronto, Rafael Devers at third base for Boston, Xander Bogaerts shortstop for Boston, outfield's Mike Trout, who will not play probably. Outfield is also Aaron Judge for the Yankees and Teoscar Hernandez for Toronto, and the DH is obviously Shohei Ohtani, who will also, it's been rumored that he will also pitch as well in the game, which will be very exciting. The reserves for the American League: catcher is Mike Zunino for Tampa Bay, second base Jose Altuve for Houston, shortstops are Bo Bichette for Toronto and Carlos Correa for Houston, first base Matt Olson for Oakland, third base Jose Ramirez for Cleveland, first base again is Jared Walsh for the Angels, outfield reserves are Michael Brantley for Houston, Joey Gallo and Adolis Garcia for Texas, Cedric Mullins for Baltimore, and the DHs are JD Martinez for Boston and Nelson Cruz for Minnesota Twins. The starting pitchers are Shane Bieber for Cleveland, who is not going to play. We'll talk about who should probably come in for him as a reserve. Garrett Cole for the Yankees, Nathan Eovaldi for Boston, Kyle Gibson for Texas, Yusei Kikuchi, which I probably messed up, for Seattle, Lance Lynn for the White Sox, and Carlos Rodon for the White Sox. The relievers are Matt Barnes for Boston, Aroldis Chapman for the Yankees, Liam Hendricks for the White Sox, Ryan Presley for Houston, and Gregory Soto for Detroit. The National League, this is a lot. The National League starters are catcher Buster Posey for the Giants, Freddie Freeman at first base for Atlanta, Adam Frazier at second base for Pittsburgh, Nolan Arenado third base for St. Louis, Tatis Jr. at San Diego at shortstop. Then the outfielders are Acuna, Castellanos, and Winker. Reserves are JT Realmuto at catcher. Second base is Jake Cronenworth for San Diego and Ozzie Albies. Third base is Chris Bryant for the Cubs and Eduardo Escobar for the Diamondbacks. Shortstop is Brandon Crawford for the Giants. Max Muncy is at first base for the Dodgers. I also missed Trey Turner as a shortstop for the Nationals. Then the outfield reserves are Mookie Betts for the Dodgers, Brian Reynolds for the Pirates, both Kyle Schwarber, who's probably not going to play because of an injury for the Nationals, and also Soto for the Nationals, and Chris Taylor as the Dodgers utility man. Starting pitchers are Corbin Burns for the Brewers, Yu Darvish for the Padres, Jacob deGrom, who's said he's not going to play for the Mets, Kevin Gausman for the Giants, German Marquez for the Rockies, Trevor Rogers for Miami, Zach Wheeler for the Phillies, and Brandon Woodruff for the Brewers. And lastly, the relievers are Josh Hader for the Brewers, Craig Kimbrell for the Cubs, Mark Melancon in San Diego, and Alex Reyes for the Cardinals. Man, that was a lot. So, like I was saying, I think the fans did very well. The only gripe I have in the American League, I think Cedric Mullins deserves to start instead of Teoscar Hernandez, but Cedric Mullins, I'll be shocked. He should be the starter for Mike Trout, I think, coming in. I don't know what outfielder is going to replace Mike Trout. That's up in the air right now. There's a lot of good candidates, but I think the main ones that deserved it have already been named for this year. Let me see. I think in the American League, that's the only gripe I have. I think everyone else is very deserving. Aaron Judge, you could also say Aaron Judge shouldn't be a starter as well, but I think just the name itself is fun to see him in the starting lineup. In the American League, let me see. Yeah, I like everything else. I think the fans did very well. The things I liked about what the fans did is they really noticed the smaller stats that wouldn't normally get players in. Normally, big names just fill the roster spots, and that's what you get. But when you see a player like Adam Frazier for the Pittsburgh Pirates get in, it's really exciting to see with the great batting average that he has and on-base percentage. The only, and this would be a small gripe, is I think Max Muncy deserves to start in first base over Freddie Freeman, but you definitely can't go wrong with Freddie Freeman, who's starting to pick it up to end this first half of the baseball season. And I guess we can talk about who is going to come in for the players that are injured but also got named. So for Mike Trout, again, there's so many options in the outfield. I'm not even going to guess who I think should be there. For Shane Bieber, I think Chris Bassett deserves to make the All-Star game for Oakland. He's pitched very well for Oakland, a top team in the AL West, and without his pitching, I don't think they'd be in the position they are right now. He recently just did very well against Houston, so I think Chris Bassett deserves it. Or if they want to stay in the same team, Aaron Savali for the Indians has the most wins at 10 in the American League, I'm pretty sure, at this time. And that's with being injured for the past week and a half. So I don't know if Aaron Savali would even be healthy enough and would want to participate in the All-Star game with that injury, but he's also well deserving of it as well. In the National League, Kyle Schwarber is injured. Again, the outfield position, there's so many people that could be deserving of this. I'm trying to think on the top of my head if there's anyone. I can think of Avisail Garcia for the Brewers has done very well this year. I bet there's someone I'm missing that deserves to be there, but I cannot think of it at the moment. For pitching, Jacob deGrom, who deserves to be. There's so many great starting pitching in the National League, and I'm trying to think who's deserving out of these names. I'm just going to list a couple. Walker Buehler's done great this year. Max Scherzer's done great this year. Kyle Hendricks has 10 wins for the Cubs. He's done great this year. There's just so many big names that didn't make it. I think it's because a lot of teams just need to have one player in the All-Star game, so it takes away from other players. But you can't even complain about this with the starting pitchers in the National League with how great they've been. So those are a few names that I think could take over for Jacob deGrom. And yeah, so I'm very happy with what the fans did. It's amazing how close the National League. Everyone except for Freeman I had as the in the starting lineup for the National League, and then the American League. Let's see. I had a little different outfield. I thought Adolis Garcia for the Rangers, which, if you don't know, I'm a big Texas Ranger fan, deserved to start, but he did slow down towards the end of this first half, so I get why Aaron Judge and Teoscar Hernandez took those spots. And I think the infield's great. Some people don't like having multiple players from the same team play in the All-Star game together, but I think Devers and Bogarts deserve it, and Simeon and Guerrero Jr. deserve it as well. So I'm really happy with what the fans did this year. I guess we already said the snubs from the people that might. I think the snubs, if there were any, will play for the injured players or the players that decide not to play this year. So I don't think there should be any snubs this year. You can let me know if I'm wrong. Who should be the starting pitcher for the game? There's rumors Ohtani could just start the game off for the American League, but I really think Lance Lynn has my vote to start this year. He's really been an innings grinder for the White Sox. They're in first place for a reason. Lucas Giolito hasn't been as good as we know he can be, so Lance Lynn has really taken that spot for the White Sox and led them so far to the promised land, being the winner in the American League if everything goes correctly. In the National League, it would be Jacob deGrom, but he's already said he's not going to be it. So I think you can't go wrong with these two, Brandon Woodruff or Kevin Gausman. I think it's kind of cool that Kevin Gausman gets to start with how rocky of a pass he had, especially with Baltimore with the Baltimore Orioles in the past. So I think Kevin Gausman would be a great pick, especially with how surprising the Giants have been this year in a division with the Dodgers and the Padres still leading that division. I think Kevin Gausman deserves it. So that's all I have for the All-Star game. We'll talk about it more when it gets closer to it. I'm hoping to have a guest on for the next podcast to talk more about the All-Star game. So we're going to move on to the Home Run Derby. Let me list off the players that are in the Home Run Derby. It was finalized yesterday. We have Shohei Ohtani for the Angels, Juan Soto for the Nationals, Joey Gallo for the Rangers, Trevor Story for the Rockies, Matt Olson for the Oakland Athletics, Trey Mancini, great story for the Baltimore Orioles, Salvador Perez for Kansas City, and Pete Alonso, the reigning 2019 champion, is in as well. The matchups supposedly are Ohtani versus Soto, Gallo versus Story, Olson versus Mancini, and Perez versus Alonso. I wasn't going to predict who's going to win it all, but I think a sleeper in this, there's just so many big names that it could go any way, but I think Matt Olson in Coors Field could be a very good pick. A lot of people are going to say Ohtani or Gallo or Alonso, so if you're thinking of someone else, maybe an underdog in this, Matt Olson has as much power as any of those guys and can hit the ball very far. So I think Matt Olson could be a great pick if you're a betting man. Trevor Story would be fun as well. It's always fun to pull for the home team guy. I remember when Todd Frazier won it for Cincinnati, and then when Bryce Harper won it he was still part of the Nationals. It's just always fun to root for that guy as well. Is there anyone I would have wished would participated? I think everyone was hoping Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would participate again, but I understand that why he doesn't. Some people think it messes up your swing. I disagree, but who am I? I'm just a backseat driver. I wish Kyle Schwarber was a part of it, especially how hot he got in the month of June. But because of a hamstring injury, he's probably not going to even be able to play in the All-Star game, so that's a real bummer. Just like Gallo, he got really hot towards the end of this first half of the baseball season, and I think fans would have loved to see him participate again, as I think he participated and made it to the finals and lost to Bryce Harper when the Nationals had it. So it would have been fun to see him again if he wanted to participate. Now we are going to buy or sell. Which teams should buy, which teams should sell at the trade deadline? I didn't want to get too much into the trade deadline with how far away it still is. It's about 3 weeks away. But I thought it'd be fun to just say who I think is on the cusp of making the playoffs or not making the playoffs. If they should buy, they should trade for players, or if they should sell their players away. I have 6 teams here. There are more teams that could be on that cusp. I mean, the entire NL East could be on a buy or sell with how close it is. Excuse me. And also in the NL West, I decided not to choose a team because I feel like the Padres, Dodgers, and Giants are all going to be going for it anyway, so there's no point of guessing buy or sell. So the first team I have is in an interesting division in the NL Central, the St. Louis Cardinals. They are currently 43-45, so below 500, nine games out. I think you have to buy if you're the St. Louis Cardinals. You brought in Nolan Arenado. You're not going to go through a rebuild. That proved your point. You're not going through a rebuild. The Brewers are in your way. The Reds are in your way. With a little luck, with a little win streak, you can get right in there and probably not win the wild card with how great teams like the Padres, Dodgers, Giants are going. They're probably going to take up, unless something drastic happens, take up the wild card positions too. So if you're in the Central or the East, you really have to go for that division. And I think with how with how back and forth the NL Central has been this year with the Brewers, the Cubs were in first place, the Reds have been sticking in there as well. The Cardinals need to go for it and get a starting pitcher. Their offense has been a little slow as well, so maybe bring in a bat as well. But their pitching is what I think needs help. You can't let the old Adam Wainwright do all the work. And Carlos Martinez just went on the IL as well. So I think St. Louis needs to buy because they've proven with the Arenado trade they're not going anywhere. The Chicago Cubs, who are actually in front of the Cardinals, 43 and 44, 8.5 games out. They have so many pieces that are going to be free agents at the end of this year or are just great trade pieces with Craig Kimbrell, Chris Bryant, Javier Baez, Anthony Rizzo, Contreras, and Jock Peterson. I think you can do both in this situation. I think you can still try to go for it while dumping off some players to get some money and bring in other names as well. So I don't think it really has to go both ways. I don't know if that's a cop-out for me not saying buy or sell, but I believe they can do both. Who would I get rid of? I don't know if anyone wants him right now, but Anthony Rizzo has been off to a very slow start and really hasn't picked it up at all. I think if you're able to dump him for some pieces, that would be fantastic. The Cubs also have Craig Kimbrell. I think with that bullpen and how great Craig Kimbrell is, it will hurt them in the long run. But so many teams need a closer, and you can say Kimbrell's been the best closer other than Mark Melancon this year. So those are some pieces I could see them. Chris Bryant's also a big piece that could be moved as well, but I feel like if you get Chris Bryant, you should get rid of Chris Bryant. You should just sell the team completely because he's been the face this year of the Cubs, and he's done the most work, I feel like, for the Chicago Cubs this year. So if you get rid of him, I just don't see how you're going to participate in a playoff hunt. The Miami Marlins are next. They are 38 and 47. They're 8 games out. This was tough for me because of how close the NL East is right now. I mean, every day it seems like one team drops from second to fourth place. I mean, I was going to put the Nationals on this list, but then they bumped their way up to second place in the division just overnight. The Mets are still holding on by a little bit, but I think it can come down to any team in that division still. So if I'm the Miami Marlins, I'm going to say screw it. I'm going to go for it. I have a great young team behind me. You're probably still a couple years out from being a real contender. But why not? Why not? You have very good pitching that I don't think gets talked about enough, young pitching. And the batters, I would bring in a bat that's got some pop in it and go for it. I think it'd be great for the franchise, and the fans would love it if the Marlins decide to go for it. Going to the American League, the Cleveland Indians are 42 and 42, 8 games. Now, being from the Cleveland area and going through years of just frustration, the Indians are probably going to do nothing. That's what they're good at. They're good at playing it safe, not buying, not selling. But I think in this situation, with all the injuries to pitching, even though Zach Plesac's coming back this upcoming week, Shane Bieber's going to be out still until past the All-Star break, and Aaron Savali probably as well. I think it's time to sell. I think the White Sox have this division locked down. I mean, Detroit's not going to do anything. Minnesota's had a terrible season, which is very surprising. And the Kansas City Royals are not doing that well either. So if you're the Indians, fans could still think, oh, we could pull this off. We could win the division. Losing 9 in a row right now as well, I just don't see it happening. So I think the Indians need to sell. Is it time to sell Jose Ramirez? I don't know if I'd go that far. You'd have to get a great deal to sell Jose Ramirez, who's on such a comfortable contract, one of the best contracts the franchise could have done with how great he is as a player. If you feel bad for Jose with the contract he has right now, with the amount of talent he has. The New York Yankees, they are 44-41, 8.5 games, not doing what people thought they would do. I mean, like most years, people thought this was a World Series contending team. But you're the New York Yankees. You have to buy. You have to go for it. I know Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Boston are in your way, but being a New York Yankee fan, I'm not a fan, but fans in general, they don't know what selling is. I don't even know who you would sell with the contracts that you have, with the big names that you have on the team. You're not going to trade Judge, Stanton, LeMahieu. You could trade someone like Urshela, but then that's not really a name that's going to kick you out of the playoff hunt to begin with. So I think you got to spend some money and buy and try to have a big second half and prove the haters wrong that you're still in this playoff hunt. And the last team is the Seattle Mariners. They are 45-42, 8 games. I like the Seattle Mariners. A lot of young guys, a lot of young talent on this team. And I'm saying buy. You got Oakland and Houston in your way. You're over 500, which how many times can the Seattle Mariners say that this far into a season? I think you bring in, I saw an article that said to bring it back Nelson Cruz. That would be very exciting. Get some pop into that lineup. Seattle could use pitching as well. But just make a move or two and go for it. I don't think it's going to hurt you in the long run. You have so many young pieces coming up and that are already up. It's not going to affect the rebuild that you started. I think this would be fun for Seattle fans in general. So I think go for it. Why not? And that's all I have for buy or sell. Next would be, how do you feel about these things? And I have 2 topics here. Sticky substances. I'm late to the party on this, but I agree with what Tom Glavine said. I'm paraphrasing here, but he mentioned how it's unfair to the players for it to happen in the middle of the season, which I agree with. Making a huge change like this in the middle of the season is kind of outrageous and would be the most frustrating part of the situation if I was a pitcher. But also, for hundreds of years, pitchers have been facing the elements, gripping balls in weird ways, or having to deal with weather or the different type of ball uses that have been used. So I think like Tom Glavine said, pitchers and players took it too far with the substances and had to be humbled. And some people said, if that's the case, why do batters get to use pine tar? That's a great point that I just think that with how great pitching is in the American League, the hitters need all the help you can get. And you might say, well, how can you say that with the amount of home runs hit every year going up? It's because if it's not a home run, they're striking out. And I think real baseball will come back if you get rid of things like the sticky substances. More hits will be made. It will affect pitching that already have it tough for them. And your favorite pitcher may not do as well without these substances, and that's something they're going to have to get used to. Like a pitcher who used to throw in the high 90s that lost his speed and had to work on accuracy and breaking balls to keep having a career in the major leagues, you're just going to have to get over it. So I agree with a lot of what Tom Glavine said. How do I feel about 7-inning games? I hate 7-inning games for doubleheaders. I get why you do it, so you save arms in the bullpen, less chance of injuring players during these games. But the real problem I have with 7-inning games is that and this has happened twice now, it just happened with the Tampa Bay Rays and Madison Bumgarner. If you no-hit a team in 7 innings, it should count as a no-hitter. It counts as a complete game if you throw a complete game, they still count as a complete game. But for some reason, if you give them no hits in 7 innings, and that's what the game was scheduled to be, that's what should count as a no-hitter. And I don't understand why baseball is not allowing it. I think Madison Bumgarner stuck it to Manfred when he was interviewed by a reporter after his not no-hitter. He looked up at the scoreboard, saw that they won, and that no hits were on the scoreboard. It's a no-hitter, and I completely agree with him. Tampa Bay Rays should have a no-hitter. That would be the 3rd time the Cleveland Indians have been no-hit this year. It's another reason I think they should sell with how their offense has been this year, but that's going back to the buy or sell that we've already done. So this was the first episode of Backseat Baseball. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm planning on getting cameras and trying to put this on YouTube, Spotify in the future. For now, it's probably going to be on SoundCloud, but hopefully with the growth of the podcast, I can put it on YouTube and Spotify. I hope you guys enjoy. This is Ryan Jones, Backseat Baseball.